Hey guys, Chris Cook in Nashville here. Want to show you guys today how I make my browned butter bites. These are so important in our house. My wife eats these to not only up her fat intake, but I know it's also really important for women for hormones and things like that to have extra butter. So I have a pound of unsalted butter and a pound of salted butter. I like the flavor of this half and half, so does she. You can use all salted, all unsalted, whatever you want. And I have a heavy bottom skillet. Now I have a stainless steel because it is easier to see what's happening with your butter as it's browning if you have a light colored skillet. I have this on a medium heat. If you have a stove that runs hot, maybe keep it medium low. You want to be careful to not get this too hot because we need to brown it slowly, not actually burn the butter solids. So I'm just going to unwrap these sticks of butter, put them in this skillet as it's starting to heat up, and they will start melting down just like this. So this is 2 pounds of butter. This usually lasts us a month or so, maybe not quite that long. Depends on how much butter my wife is using and how much I'm using and what we actually go through, but it stays in the freezer, so it stays good the whole time. So I'm just gonna melt these down. I'm also gonna need a glass bowl or some other kind of heat-resistant container that has a spout and a handle because we're gonna have to be able to pour this out. So I've got my butter starting to melt. I'm just gonna start stirring gently. Now this is gonna get real hot. So when you stir this, be careful you are not splashing anything and make sure that you do not hurt yourself because this butter is going to get real hot. So here's the stages it's going to go through. First, you're going to see what's happening here where the foam starts to kind of separate, right? We get it all melted, and now you can see how the foam is starting to separate to the sides of the pan. That's the first step. That means the side of the pan there with that foam is starting to expand out as the steam is escaping from the butter. So that's the first thing we have to do is cook the extra water out of the butter because those milk solids are not going to brown until that is done. Once the excess steam has cooked out, you will see it starts to get a little bit fluffier and bubbly, and it's kind of boiling, but the bubbles are getting bigger and they're sort of popping faster. It's going to rise up a little bit. You can slowly start to turn the heat up if you want a little bit because this is the next stage. Don't go too high on your heat. This is the next stage where you get this fine, frothy stuff. So this is the third stage, and at this point, this is why you want to make sure your heat isn't too high. This is where the browning is going to start. You can already see it starting to get a little bit of a more golden yellow to light brown color as I'm stirring it. I'm just going to keep going back and forth and back and forth. I'm stirring this the entire time I'm browning my butter because you don't want it to sit still and burn or to pop at you too much. So I'm going to keep stirring this back and forth, and as it goes further, you'll see that froth is starting to get finer and finer, and it's going to start to expand and raise up. Now be careful, if you overfill your pan, you can actually have this cook over the top and get all over your burner and cause smoke. So make sure you don't overfill your pan. Have a big enough pan or do a smaller amount. And as this keeps going, you can see I'm stirring and stirring, and I'm watching the brown color I'm getting. You brown this as much as you want. You can kind of see that brown color as I pull through the foam there. You make this as brown as you like it. We like a deep, dark sort of mahogany, but not a super dark brown where it's pushing burnt. My wife really likes the flavor, kind of a mahogany color. So I'm just going to keep stirring and just keep going. Keep browning it. Make sure it stays moving. Scrape around the edges just like that. Make sure that it's not going to burn anywhere. And at this point, you can turn the heat off so that you don't burn anything. And now it's a nice mahogany brown. It is done. And I immediately am going to pour that out. You can see little bits of the butter solids there on the bottom, and you can kind of see that dark brown. Make sure to scrape all of that out because that is where the nutty, tasty, wonderful flavor of these browned butter bites comes from. Okay, so I'm going to get all of this into this this Pyrex container. This is why we need something glass that's heat resistant because this is very hot, so please be careful. Now I'm going to show you how we take the fuss out of pouring this into our molds. So these are just silicone ice trays. They're about a tablespoon each, roughly. There's my butter. Now I'm going to show you how I make this very easy. You can see that's that nice mahogany brown color I was talking about. And the butter solids are kind of there in the bottom. It's been sitting there, and I'm letting those butter solids settle to the bottom. That's important. Then I have this thing. It's made for like funnel cakes and candy makers and all this kind of stuff, but I'm carnivore, and I use this thing for my browned butter. So all we're going to do is set it up. You set your little funnel with the little button, the little trigger there, and I'm gonna pour the melted butter fat in here. But when you do this, do it slowly. One, you don't wanna hurt yourself. But two, we're actually gonna leave the butter solids, the actual solid material, at the bottom of this container. That's why it's important that it sits there and you let those butter solids settle out, because we're gonna pour the fat off, and then you can see there's the solids. I'm gonna stop right there, and now I have all of the brown solids in the bottom of this container. We're gonna distribute that with a spoon after we have filled these molds. This makes this much, much easier. So we're gonna take this little candy maker, funnel cake maker, whatever it is, and we're going to just one at a time fill up each of these little ice tray sections. Now, like I said, this is about a tablespoon for each one of these. You can just measure out about how much each one of yours is, whatever kind of silicone molds you get. You do want silicone, you don't want plastic, because this is very, very hot butter fat still. I put it in here while it's really hot. It just makes it flow easier. We're gonna do the whole thing, and you can see about how much I get out of it. Now, I'm gonna take the butter solids, and instead of trying to figure out how to keep it stirred the whole time and get it with a spoon into each one of these, I use the butter fat through the little funnel, and then I'm just gonna take a spoon and go back, and it's much easier to do this and just distribute a little bit of those butter solids into each of these little cubes in this tray. Okay, I'm gonna go through, I'm gonna do that exact same thing to all of them, distribute it as evenly as I can. And there you can see there are my browned butter bites in the mold all the way through. Now the only thing we need to do is take this, put it in my big freezer and let it set up. So we're gonna go over here, and there's nothing fancy about this. We're gonna take the tray of liquid butter. Be careful, don't spill. Okay, I'm just gonna set that in my big chest freezer. I'm gonna leave that in there for a couple of hours, and we're gonna let that cool down and solidify, and then they can come out of the mold. And here we are a couple of hours later. I come back, and there are our butter bites. They are solidified, they are beautiful, they taste amazing. They have a nice layer of that dark brown butter solid on the bottom. Guys, these are so good for you as either a snack, a fat bomb, something for your hormones, whatever. So guys, make sure to make these, keep them around. My wife eats like 5-6 of these a day. Thank you guys so much for watching. Eat your meat, love your life. Chris Cook in Nashville. See you later.